What's up, Chiefs Kingdom? Noah Gray here, tight end for the Kansas City Chiefs. Make sure you like, share, and subscribe to Josh's channel and check out showmefootball.com for more.
What is up, guys? Welcome back to another video on my channel. My name is Josh Fan of showmefootball.com and arrowheadaddict.com, and I wanted to give you all 5 quick thoughts following the Kansas City Chiefs' final preseason game, which resulted in a 33-32 victory over the Cleveland Browns. So my first of 5 quick thoughts for you guys, I want to start with the backup quarterback battle, because that was one of the big position battles that was left that we thought was still up in the air heading into this game. Most assumed that the backup quarterback was going to be the veteran Blaine Gabbert, but Shane Buechele had been making a push this preseason. He had looked really good in a couple of the preseason games versus Arizona and New Orleans. The arm talent is evident. He also flashed some running ability. Shane Buechele was pushing for that quarterback 2 spot, no doubt about it. Even Andy Reid himself said heading into this game that the competition was very close. But I had this discussion with Michael Darcy last week in a video. We discussed the quarterback 2 battle. And while both of us thought Shane Buechele had more talent and more upside, we agreed that Blaine Gabbert was probably going to get the job just because he's the veteran and he's the steadier presence. And I think today's preseason game pretty much showed that. It confirmed that. And I think Shane Buechele, any chance that he had to be the quarterback 2 for this year, he lost that today because he had 2 pretty bad, well, one of the interceptions was not necessarily on him, but the throw was a little bit off the mark. And then he just had another interception that was absolutely terrible. And it was a pick 6 from, of course, former Chief Juan Thornhill taking it back about 36 yards. And it's stuff like that with Shane Buechele that, you know, I told this to Michael Darcy, but I feel like with Shane Buechele, if he's the backup, any chance that he does get in the game, he feels like that's going to be his moment, his time to shine, his chance to let everyone know that he should be a starting quarterback in this league and that he's super talented. And while I totally get that for Shane Buechele, Blaine Gabbert understands his role. He knows exactly what he is. He is a backup quarterback. He's been a career backup quarterback, whereas Shane Buechele is going to go out there and he's going to kind of, be the macho man, try to show everybody what he can do. And we don't really need that at backup quarterback. We just need the steady veteran presence that can be trusted to go out there and execute the Chiefs offense. Now, I know Blaine Gabbert had an interception today, but it was not his fault at all. It was off the hands of Matt Bushman, who should have caught that. But yeah, guys, I think today pretty much solidified the quarterback 2 being Blaine Gabbert. That battle is over. I don't know what's going to happen to Shane Buechele, if they'll still keep 3 quarterbacks or if they'll cut Shane Buechele. We'll just have to see. I would kind of like to see Shane Buechele stick around because I still think there's plenty of potential there. I think he can be the long-term backup or an asset the Chiefs can flip in the future. I just don't think this is the year for Shane Buechele. Second thought that I had coming out of this game, Charles Omenihu was absolutely fantastic. Omenihu was the Kansas City Chiefs' big free agent signing at defensive end this offseason. He was seen as the Frank Clark replacement. Unfortunately, as everyone knows by now, Omenihu is going to be out for the first 6 games of the 2023 season due to a suspension. But he's still able to play in the preseason games, and we have a chance to get a glimpse of what he brings to the table. And I got to say, today made me really excited for Charles Omenihu. I don't know where this pass rush is going to be at after the first 6 weeks in the season, but wherever it's at, I'm confident that when Omenihu comes back in, that this pass rush is going to go to another level. Omenihu was that good today. He had a sack. I believe it was his first sack of preseason. But on top of it, he had multiple really good rushes that stood out. Very noticeable today. Constantly wreaking havoc, constantly getting in the quarterback's face. He also rushed from the inside quite a bit. And that's where the loss of Omenihu for the first 6 games is really going to hurt. Not only because your defensive end depth takes a hit, but Brett Veach talked about when they made the Omenihu signing that Omenihu was going to be expected to come in here and play on the interior as well. So you're taking away a guy that also is going to help fill in snaps on the interior. And the defensive tackle depth does not look great at the moment either, especially if this Chris Jones holdout continues into the regular season at all. That spells trouble. This team needs Chris Jones. This team needs Charles Omenihu. And to possibly be without both of them for multiple weeks of the regular season, that's going to be really tough. hopefully the whole Chris Jones thing gets resolved. But regardless, Charles Omenihu, this team is going to miss him. They're going to miss him for the first 6 weeks. And I wish it didn't have to be that way. I wish they could appeal that suspension and get Omenihu back sooner, but it is what it is. But I definitely had to highlight his performance today because he really stood out and made me feel good about this pass rush. Third thought of the night, running back Licho Perine is making this team. If there was any doubt left, that was erased after today's preseason game. He looks awesome. He was a running back that the Chiefs picked up late this offseason. Well into training camp is when they signed him. And tonight he had 4 carries for 32 yards, but where he did his damage was in the receiving game. He had 3 catches for 44 yards and a touchdown and looked really athletic doing so. And also, when you talk about Licho Perine making this team, you start to ask questions about what happens with Deneric Prince and Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I think the Chiefs for sure carry 3 running backs. I don't know about 4 running backs, though. Pacheco and McKinnon are obviously making this team. That's a no-brainer. After that, though, it's really anybody's guess. I think Licho Perine has been the 3rd best running back this preseason. Or he's been the best of the guys that we don't know if they're making the team yet. And I think he deserves to be on this team. I would project him to be on the 53-man roster after today. But Deneric Prince, he got some run late in this game and he looked good. And then he's also been their main kick returner all preseason. So it would be kind of strange to make this guy your main kick returner and then you get to cutdown day and he's off the team, because then who's returning kicks? So that makes me believe that Clyde Edwards-Helaire potentially is off this team, but it would have to be through trade. And it's not a guarantee that the Chiefs find a trade partner, because the Chiefs, I don't really think get all that much cap savings from Clyde Edwards-Helaire being cut. But the tough thing is I don't know if he has any trade value. So I don't know what's going to happen with him, but if it was as easy as just cutting him, I don't think Clyde would be on this team. It would be Perine and then Prince. But if the Chiefs are going to only carry 3 running backs, I think the 3rd one has to be Perine. His performance today was nothing short of spectacular. He looked really good. He was out there making people miss. So, yeah, Licho Perine on the 53-man roster. That's my 3rd thought of today's game. Now on to number 4. Justin Ross, man. How can you not bring him up? I didn't bring him up when Michael and I did our winners and losers list from last game, and it's because I just felt like he had already been in the spotlight that I didn't have to mention it. But he had his game off, and now it's time to talk about him again. Justin Ross is a stud, man. Like, same thing for him. It's like, if there was any doubt left that he was making the team before today's game, that thought has to be erased from your mind. Like, Justin Ross is making this team, and that end zone fade, man, just, I mean, he bodied the Cleveland Browns defender. He caught a body on that play, and he looks like a stud. He looks like a star. He's been the star of training camp. Preseason games come on. The hype from training camp has transitioned all the way onto the field. I mean, he continues to look like a star. He's made at least one highlight play in every single preseason game. He's out there getting valuable reps, and I'm just really excited for what he can bring to this team in the regular season, because he's an element that we didn't think the Chiefs were going to have before. I had always talked about how I know Justin Ross has the talent, and I feel like so many Chiefs fans are placing these super high expectations on him, and that was always unfair. But there was also a portion of Chiefs fans that were like, oh, who cares? Like, he's not going to do anything. He's not going to make it. Can't stay healthy. And I'm like, well, hold on. Let's give him a chance. I mean, the guy was a top 50 talent in college when he was at Clemson, and he would have been one of the first wide receivers selected in his draft class if not for injuries ever affecting him. So I was always for the Justin Ross experiment, and now it's starting to pay off. We're seeing it pay off. I just reserved judgment until seeing him in the preseason, and I reserved judgment until I knew he was going to make the team. Well, he's making the freaking team, guys. Like, it's obvious at this point. And not only do I think he's going to make the team, I think he's going to contribute. I don't think he's going to be one of these guys that looks really good in preseason and then he makes the team and then he doesn't really get any run. Like Daurice Fountain from a couple years ago. Daurice Fountain was a stud in preseason, and then I don't know if he ever recorded a catch when he was on the Chiefs during the regular season. I think he was inactive for most games, in fact. So Justin Ross, I think, is going to contribute. Question is, how much is he going to contribute? That's yet to be seen in the regular season. I'm excited, though, and Brett Veach's up in the press box talking on the broadcast right when Justin Ross caught his touchdown, and you got to hear Brett Veach talk about him a little bit. And I mean, Brett Veach had some good things to say about him, and usually when that happens, the way Brett Veach talked about him, you don't talk about a guy like that if you didn't think he was going to make the team. You wouldn't put him out there like that just to not put him on the team here in a couple days. And the Chiefs social media team even had Justin Ross post a video on their Twitter account today after the game. And it's like, you don't give Justin Ross that level of exposure if he was on the bubble. It wouldn't make any sense. So Justin Ross is locked into making the team. I think the Chiefs carry 7 receivers. I feel like most people were leaning towards that way for a few weeks now, but yeah, I think the Chiefs keep 7 receivers. Justin Ross is making this team. But the question is, who is going to be receiver number 7? Because that brings me into thought number 5, which is Amir Smith-Marsette. How can you not bring up Amir Smith-Marsette after his performance today? Amir Smith-Marsette totaled over 100 receiving yards on the day. Just another incredible performance from him. He's maybe been the best Chiefs receiver this preseason, you could argue. I believe Amir Smith-Marsette was second in preseason receiving yards among all receivers. So the guy has looked like an absolute stud. But for a while now, most have assumed that there's just not going to be a spot for him on this team. Even Michael and I said that in one of our videos a couple weeks ago. Is Amir Smith-Marsette has looked great, but there's just not really a spot for him on this team. Because when you start to crunch the numbers, okay, let's look at the obvious ones that are making this team. MVS, Kadarius Toney, Sky Moore, Richie James, Rashee Rice. You know, that's 5 guys right there. Then Justin Ross is probably making it. That's 6. Number 7's probably going to be Justin Watson, because that's just, the Chiefs like Justin Watson. Mahomes likes him. Mahomes trusts him. He has that Mahomes stamp of approval. The Chiefs signed him to a multi-year deal this offseason, which I think matters. And so Justin Ross is one of those guys that just, he has the Chiefs coaching staff basically in the palm of his hands. And because of that, I think he's a lock to make the team, even though I'd be much happier keeping Amir Smith-Marsette over Justin Watson. But you can't kick anyone else off. Like, if you're going to kick anybody off, it has to be Justin Watson, and I don't think the Chiefs are going to do that. So therefore, I don't know, man. I don't know if Amir Smith-Marsette's going to be able to stick around here, but he deserves to, man. Like, he absolutely deserves to. His preseason has been amazing. He talked to the media after today's game, and they asked him who he thought he was, and he said he was the baddest mother effer on the planet, and I love that swagger coming from him. The Chiefs have done a really nice job developing him. He was on the practice squad for the past year. He had worked out with Mahomes a lot over the offseason, and you can really start to see the progression from him. That was an awesome pickup by the Chiefs. But unfortunately, it looks like they're not even going to reap the benefits from their own coaching job that they've done with him, because there's just not going to be a spot for him. And it really sucks, man. It does, because I would love to find a way to get him on this team. Heck, keep 8 receivers at this point if that's what you have to do. I mean, really, though, Amir Smith-Marsette, at least at this point, if he doesn't make the Chiefs, I feel like the Chiefs could maybe get a draft pick out of Amir Smith-Marsette, excuse me. I feel like they could dangle him as trade bait, and someone would be willing to trade maybe even a 5th-round pick, as high as a 5th-round pick for Amir Smith-Marsette. Not something that I thought was possible even just a few weeks ago, but Amir Smith-Marsette has warranted that kind of value. So looking at it from even just Amir Smith-Marsette's perspective, even if he doesn't make the Chiefs, which I don't think he's going to, the dude has done he's done a hell of a job finding a spot for himself in the NFL, because if he's not going to be able to stick with the Chiefs, he's going to stick somewhere. Like, he just is. He's too talented. He's too good. Some other team will pick him up if the Chiefs cut him and he goes on the waiver wire. He's not going to pass through waivers. Some team will pick him up. So good for Amir Smith-Marsette. Good on the Chiefs for developing him. I just wish there was some type of way that they could figure out to keep him on this team. So those were my top 5 thoughts coming out of today's game. There were some others that didn't quite make the cut that I could have mentioned, like Matt Bushman, the tight end. I thought he had a strong performance despite the one drop that ended up becoming an interception, but the receiving upside is evident with him. I could have talked about Clyde Edwards-Helaire a little bit more. I have my opinions on him, but it's really the same thing that I've been saying all preseason. But for the most part, guys, those are my thoughts. Rashee Rice, too, I'll throw him in there. I know he had some bad drops today. That's just kind of what the Rashee Rice experience is. He had drop issues in college. I hope some of this is just rookie jitters, though, because even though he had some drops in college, he wasn't this bad. Whenever I was watching his games, I don't ever remember him being this bad. So hopefully he gets that figured out because the talent is clearly there. Rashee Rice has also been very good in preseason. He's been top 2 in Chiefs receiving yards this preseason. So hope the best for Rashee Rice. But those are my thoughts on today's game. But I want to hear from you guys what you think of what I had to say. Do you agree, disagree with me? Do you have anything that stands out from today's preseason game that you notice? Let me know down in the comments. But with all that being said, make sure you like, share, and subscribe so more Chiefs fans can find this. And make sure you check out my work on showmefootball.com and arrowheadaddict.com. And I will see you all in the next one. Go Chiefs!